There's something happening with the Halloween game that, as an Australian gamer, I find pretty frustrating. So me and Michael have a bone to pick with Australia. Anyway, let's get to it. The game has reportedly been refused classification in Australia and New Zealand because of in-game cannabis mechanic. And here's the part that really gets me. It's not necessarily the brutal horror, the blood, the murders, or Michael Myers ripping people apart that has caused the problem for this game. It's the fact that players can use a drug substance in the game and receive a gameplay benefit from it. Now, I understand that Australia has classification laws. I understand that certain content needs restrictions, and as a father and a gamer in my 50s, I certainly don't think kids should have unrestricted to adult content. But banning the entire game, that's where I start asking questions. Because we're talking about video games here. We're not talking about handing a kid a bag of cannabis or some illegal substances. We're talking about a fictional video game where an adult player can control a fictional character in a fictional world. This isn't the first time Australia has had this conversation. We've seen games refuse classification on heavily modified because of drugs, gambling, sexual content, and other adult themes. Now we've got people looking at games like Halloween and saying basically, no classification, no sale. But is banning the entire game really the best solution? I don't think it is. As an older gamer, I grew up with the Atari, Commodore 64, the Sega Mega Drive, and the Super Nintendo, playing all those consoles. Back then, games were nowhere near as sophisticated as they are today. But as gaming evolved, so did the content. Games started telling serious stories. They started dealing with war, crime, drugs, violence, death, politics, and all sorts of adult themes. And eventually gaming became an entertainment medium for adults as well as children. That's the part I think Australia forgets sometimes. Not every video game is made for a 10-year-old. Some games are specifically designed for adults, and that's okay. If a game is R-rated plus, then why can't we treat that rating seriously? If you're an adult and you've got the right to watch an R-rated movie, you can watch horror films, you can watch crime dramas, you can watch movies where characters take drugs, gamble, kill people, or behave really, really terrible. So why does a video game sometimes get treated differently? And here's where I think there's a better solution. Instead of banning an entire video game because of one particular mechanic crosses the line, why not look at age verification and age-gated features? Let's take gambling, for example. Imagine a future game where even maybe something like GTA 6, where there's gambling mechanics or other adult features. Why couldn't those features be locked behind an age verification system? You're over 18, play the game at your leisure. Verify your age. Those features become available. You're under 18, they're restricted. The technology already exists in various forms, and I'm not saying it's perfect, and I'm not saying that this is the best solution either. I mean, I have problems with this verification thing as well. I know with giving out more ID and online safety, I understand that, but it's just something that we can look into. But surely there's a conversation worth having instead of just simply saying, no, let's ban the game. Because when you ban the entire product, you're also taking the choice away from millions of adults who've done absolutely nothing wrong. And that's what annoys me. I'm 52. I've been playing video games for decades. I don't need the government to tell me what I should be playing and what I shouldn't be playing. I can make the decision myself. And that's where I think Australia needs to have more of a mature conversation about video games. We're not children anymore. The gaming audience has grown up. So have the games. A huge number of gamers today are adults who have been playing since the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. Some of us have mortgages, some of us have kids, some of us have all of the above, and even some of us, like me, have grandchildren. But some of us go to work all day, come home exhausted, just want to sit down at our gaming setup and play for an hour or two to unwind. We're not looking for the government to protect us from fictional video games. Just why we have a classification if it's not being used properly. Tell us what the game contains. Give us the appropriate rating, put restrictions on generally problematic content where necessary, and let adults make the informed decisions. Because here's the irony. Australia has one of the strictest classification systems for games, yet Australians can still access plenty of adult entertainment through movies, television, streaming services, and the internet. So when a video game gets refused classification because of one particular mechanic, it can feel completely out of proportion. And that's why the Halloween situation bothers me. I'm not saying every game should be allowed to do absolutely everything or anything. I'm not saying children should be have able to access to adult content. I'm not saying developers should follow Australian laws. What I'm saying is that banning should be the last resort, not the first solution. If the problem is one feature, deal with the feature. If the problem is gambling, age gate the gambling. If the problem is drugs being used as a gameplay advantage, maybe look at whether the mechanic can be altered, restricted, or placed behind an adult setting. There should be options between everything is fine and nobody gets to play, because that's where I think Australia needs to improve. Gaming has changed. Gamers have changed. And the people making these decisions need to recognise that. I don't want Australia to become a country where adults have to rely on overseas copies, grey market purchases, or other workabouts just to get to play a game that adults in other countries can legally buy. I'd much rather see Australia say, you're an adult, here's the rating, here's the content warning, you understand what you're buying, it's your choice. Because at the end of the day, video games are an entertainment. Sometimes they're violent, sometimes they're controversial, sometimes they're a bit uncomfortable, and sometimes they're going to contain things that not everyone agrees with. But that doesn't automatically mean they should be banned. What do you think? Should Australia continue refusing classification for games like Halloween because of the specific adult mechanics? Or should we move towards stronger age verification and let adults access adult content? Because as an older gamer in Australia, I'd much rather have choice and responsibility than any other thing like an outright ban. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. See you on the next one.